All right, thanks, Lauren. Let's get started. Well, again, good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the HDC member quarterly meeting, our first one of 2025. I'm Kate Smith, the HDC board chair. I want to first thank our quarterly member meeting sponsor, SRM Development. I also want to acknowledge that today is Housing and Homelessness Advocacy Day. So thanks to all who are phoning in from Olympia or advocating locally from your homes potentially today or offices. All right, the packet link is in the chat, which was also distributed yesterday, which includes all the meeting minute materials. And so I'm going to first go through our agenda today. Go back one slide. Thank you. So we will be voting today, both for some incoming members as well as our meeting minutes from our last board meeting in 2024. There will be a QR code. There'll also be a link in the chat as well. Please, everyone, vote. That's on the call today. We're going to do introductions of those new member meeting candidates before we vote. Lauren's going to provide a member service update, Jesse some advocacy and legislative updates, and then our big moment for today is going through our 2025 affinity and commuting group updates and wrap up with member announcements. And HDC has an announcement that they want to kick off the meeting with. We have a new staff, Jessica Yang, our community organizer. So as you hear from her, please welcome her into the HDC community.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess, she, her. I'm the new community organizer. I'm so excited to be here. I'm sure my coworkers have heard me say this like a million times by now, but I'm so excited to meet you all and be at this quarterly member meeting. And I'm sure I have some meetings set up with some of you already, but I'm trying to be very available. So if you want to meet, just shoot me an email, jessica@housingconsortium.org. And I'm excited to start the policy work. I'll be primarily working on Seattle's comp plan, as well as planning for our Affordable Housing Week, and working with Brady on some East Side stuff. But really, they're going to plug me in wherever they can. So I'm really excited to be here, excited to figure out this role, and thank you for the warm welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. All right, so we're going to move on to introductions of our new member candidates. And our first one up is Clark Barnes. Do we have Brenda Barnes on the call to give a quick intro?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, I'm Brenda Barnes of Clark Barnes Architects. We've been working in Seattle and the surrounding area since 1993. We're a 27-person small business and women's business enterprise. Our team is comprised of master planners, architects, interior designers, and historic preservations. And the firm is led by three partners, myself, Lauren Garkle, and Scott Clark. We partner with local and national developers to deliver affordable market rate and senior housing projects. We really strive to make measurable impact by designing sustainable and resilient buildings. And a cornerstone of our firm is a commitment to the renovation and adaptive reuse of existing buildings. We're deeply committed to housing in all forms. We've been working on housing projects in the region for 25 years. Our first housing project was the adaptive reuse of the OK Hotel in Pioneer Square to low-income housing. Since then, we've completed 40 more multifamily projects, and yet we've only seen the housing crisis intensify. Our firm wants to work with like-minded organizations to make it easier to provide more affordable housing. And given our variety of experience in new construction and adaptive reuse of existing buildings, we're really interested in participating in the Practical Development Solution Affinity Group and the TOD work group. So, like to thank the board and the staff for their time of our application, and we look forward to becoming productive members of the HDC community.
Wonderful. Thanks, Brenda.
Mhm.
All right, and next up we have Hills, Clark, Martin, and Peterson. Do we have Matt or Jesse on the call?
Hi, you've got both of us. So
Great.
I'll start and then let Jesse introduce himself briefly as well. So my name is Matt Markovich. I'm a partner in the real estate group here at Hillis, Clark, Martin, and Peterson. We're a Seattle-based firm, Seattle-only office. We've been here in the community for over 50 years now. So we have deep roots in the Seattle and King County real estate community. And Jesse's going to speak a little bit more about some of the various entities we represent in the affordable housing space.
Thank you, Matt, and thanks for having us. Excited to be here. My name is Jesse Johnson. I'm also an attorney in the real estate group at Hillis Clark. Just to say a few words about the kind of stuff we're working on and who we're doing it with. We represent a range of developers, for-profits, nonprofits, government agencies on their real estate land use and environmental work. That involves acquisition of property, entitlement issues, construction development agreements, and of course, as probably most people on this call know, that the financing for these projects can be quite thorny at times. So we try to help guide our clients through that process. So that's on the real estate side. We also have a lender services team that is committed to working with lenders, including lots of small, medium, and larger banks in the region to figure out ways to negotiate and get through those lending requirements and get funds to these important projects. We work with a number of community land trusts in the region as well, and those clients are doing some really interesting, innovative work to not only create affordable housing for people, but also to make sure that that housing remains affordable for decades to come. And the last thing I'll say is that, to do all this work, everybody on this call knows we need good laws, and we need better laws. And so another thing we do in our group and at our firm is get involved on the legislative side. We take pride in our legislative advocacy and just working, with people down in Olympia and locally to try to get, laws that really speak to the need for affordable housing in our region. So thanks again for having us. Excited to be here.
Great. Thanks, Matt and Jesse. And our third and final new member candidate is Neiman Tabor Architects. Anton, are you on the call?
Yep.
Go ahead.
My name is Anton Deckham. I am a principal at Neiman Tabor. We are a 10-person architecture firm here in the Madrona neighborhood of Seattle. Our practice is almost exclusively doing residential work, primarily multifamily, but we also have a small single-family studio as well. We consider ourselves to be a mission-based firm with a focus on affordability, livability, and designing for community. Way back before I was at the firm, we kind of started doing micro housing work, and in more recent years that kind of transitioned into workforce housing, and most recently in the past year or so, we've actually started doing some capital A affordable housing. We're pretty involved in policy circles. Many of our firm's members are advocating around housing and homelessness issues through various venues such as the AIA, Urbanist, Sightline, and FutureWise. And we look forward to getting involved with HDC's policy advisory group. So yeah, we're excited to be a part of an organization that's also focused on housing affordability and solving the housing crisis. And we'll hope you have us. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Anton. All right. Okay, so that wraps up our presentation, and we're now ready to vote on the December minutes and the new member slate. Could I please get a motion from someone on the call?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Amanda. And could I get a second?
I will second.
Thanks, Alex. All right, and now you all may proceed to vote online. Everyone, please vote. Use the QR code, and there'll be a link in the chat. All right. Next, we're going to move on to member service updates. Patience, passing along to you.
All right. Thank you, Kate. And welcome to our new members who are joining us just today. We're really thrilled to have you as a part of the HTC community. So we all are navigating the shifts that we're seeing at the federal level. And as we're doing so, HTC is digging deep in ways that we can support each other as we double down on our commitment to our shared vision of ensuring that everyone has access to affordable housing in this region. We are launching 2 key membership engagement opportunities, particularly the first one being the member peer support meetings. These will be meetings where members can get a forum to come together, share information on what we understand to be some of the direct and indirect impacts, share strategies, and also just talk through some of the pressing issues that you're seeing. We're aiming for that first conversation to likely be next week. Once the date is set, it'll be sent over to you. We will focus at that first meeting on the budget cuts, the executive orders related to some of the funding freezes that we're seeing or hearing of. But we'll also want to discuss communication adaptiveness. We know folks are thinking about ways that you're navigating this landscape, and we're trying to really facilitate support for all of us collectively as we approach this work. The second arm of the work is going to be a leaders exchange. This is going to be meetings where we convene informally the senior leadership of our HTC member organizations. And in that room, folks can talk about some of the challenges, some of the ways you're adapting, but also some of the opportunities, if any, if there's a silver lining opportunity that can be shared as a promising practice. In driving all of this work, we have convened a steering committee that is going to be the guide for the efforts to ensure that we are really responsive to your needs, to the needs of the sector. So we have leaders from across the industry who have agreed to serve as leaders playing a critical role in driving this work. And I want to take a moment to just give a special shout out to the committee members, some of whom are here, and I'm going to ask them to say a few words. First, we do have Lauren McGowan from LISC, who has agreed to really provide leadership in this critical time for us to navigate these challenges. And Lauren, I will pause here and hand over to you to say a few words with regards to this work.
Sure. Thanks so much, Patience. And hey, everybody. I hope you're all doing okay and headed into a relaxing weekend. I want to thank Patience and the team at HCC for providing space for this peer support and leaders exchange. I think we're all either already feeling the impacts of the changes at the federal level or are deeply concerned about what's to come. And we both want to provide an opportunity for people to engage and share and vent a little bit, but also more practically to problem solve and figure out both what we do from an advocacy lens, from a fundraising lens, and just from a collective peer-to-peer lens. How do we support each other in moving and navigating through some really challenging times? I put a link in the chat from Crosscut today. There was a piece on some of the HUD changes that have already been impacted. Just want to encourage you all to take a look at that and please engage in this peer support and leaders exchange network. I think it's going to be a great space for us to all learn together in these challenging times. Thanks to Chris Persons from Community Roots for co-chairing this with me, and a number of folks on the call for already rolling up their sleeves to get involved.
Thank you, Lauren. And I know we have Chris on the call. Chris, thank you for your leadership as well. Any words you want to share on this? I know you are engaged nationally on similar issues.
I think Lauren covered it all. We really appreciate your leadership, patience, and pulling us all together during some pretty challenging times. And we're all facing a lot of risk. And the conversations we're having locally do mirror conversations that are happening nationally. So let's keep working together and let's keep fighting together.
Thank you, Chris. Jess is here, Jess Blanche from Enterprise. She's also going to be supporting us through the steering committee. Kathleen is here as well, bringing her home ownership expertise to that work of guiding the effort. So thank you to all of you in leading this work. I think it's more important for us to come together as a community. I remain confident that this, as any other crisis that we've all dealt with, will pass. But until it passes, we have to double down on our commitment, and we can only do that in collective resiliency and collaboration as HDC. So with that, I will hand back over to you, Kate. I think it's Lauren.
It is Lauren. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. I have too many tabs open, clearly. I hope everyone knows that our celebration this year is taking place on April 23rd. So we're just over a month out. We're in the new Summit building this year. So if you're used to going to HGC celebrations, please don't go to the Arch building and the Sky Bridge. We're going to be in the Summit building, 5th floor ballroom. Registration is currently live, and Joanne has put the link in the chat. I want to say a huge thank you and shout out to all of our sponsors that have come in so far, and our partners and supporters as well. This event is really critical for HDC. It's our largest fundraising event of the year. And really would not be possible without the support of our sponsors and funders. So big thanks to everyone who has committed so far. If you're a sponsor, you know that your sponsorship comes with a table of 10 seats. So I hope that you are working to fill your tables. I'm here to assist if you need help filling your tables. Also, if you're interested in being a table captain, I'm more than happy to help set you up with information on that. But you're also welcome to just register and attend. And if you have any preference on where you're seated, you can indicate so while you're registering. We also give out awards at the annual celebration. If you've been to the celebration, you know that we give out the Carla Okigwe Award annually. And we are asking for award nominations. So the nomination, call for nomination is live currently. Joanne put the link in the chat. And they are due on March 21st. So make sure to get those nominations in soon. And I think that's all I have on the annual celebration. We're really excited to be celebrating with everyone and to see you on April 23rd. The next piece I have is the member satisfaction survey. So this is specifically for the member representatives. If you are a member rep, you have received a few emails from us to get your feedback and input on how HDC is doing and how we can best kind of serve your organizational needs and interests. So if you are a member rep, please fill out the survey if you have not already. And Joanne has put the link in the chat for that as well. And then finally, I think on the agenda, I had something about upcoming events. The most critical events that are upcoming are our annual celebration, April 23rd. We also are following that very quickly with Affordable Housing Week, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But we do have events that are added to our HGC calendar weekly, and we have some really exciting upcoming events. So we'll put the link to the website calendar in the chat and just make sure that you're checking back periodically on that. So thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for all those updates. Really excited for the annual celebration next month. All right, next we have advocacy and policy updates. Jesse, are you ready and available to provide some updates? Or is he not on the call today?
He was joining us from Olympia.
Probably still tied up. Patience, do you want to go ahead and take this, and maybe Brady can chime in too?
Yeah, happy to. Jesse is in Olympia and hard at work talking to legislators. But our advocacy continues at the state level. The primary area of focus for us has been the Housing Trust Fund. And it is important that we get so many more voices that continue to take action and support the investments that have been proposed. We have more than $530 million that's been proposed for the Housing Trust Fund. So please take action. There is an action alert that maybe Brady might post in the chat. And be sure that we're continuing to push for support. We're halfway there. We have gone past the House of Origin cut off for policies that we have been pushing forward. A lot of our lead priorities have already moved past. We don't have many bills that died along the way. And then, of course, we are in the process of waiting for the release of the budgets late March, after which we'll also get a revised revenue forecast. A few bills that we're excited about, and I'll just highlight here, we keep watching for the Affordable Homes Act, which will be a revenue source that invests critically in affordable housing. This will be sponsored by Representative Berg. So we're keeping our eyes out for that particular revenue bill. And then that bill is necessary to implement the budget, so it is not impacted by cuts, which is a good place for us to be in. I still continue to engage with the policy team and make sure that we're putting pressure for this bill to be introduced and move forward, because that's how revenue bills have died in the past. And as all of you know, the state is facing a significant budget hole. And we need to be pushing continuously to prioritize affordable housing. And then we have the Covenant Homeownership Account Trailer Bill. That bill had already passed the House. It is a small fix to the previous big win that we had on the Covenant Homeownership Account, just adjusting the AMI levels for people to access down payment assistance. And that is now, I think, moving on to the Senate. It's moving from a 100% AMI threshold to 120% AMI. So more people will have access to down payment assistance going forward if this bill passes. And then we do have a fix there to allow the loans that people get to be forgivable in the 5-year timeline as an option. So that is critical, as all of you know who work on homeownership. And then we have 2 condo bills. I am not going to talk about the condo bill with Brady in the room, who is our champion. He has gotten this through the finish line. Brady, you want to say a few words on House Bill 1403 and House Bill 1516?
Definitely. So I have some great news with these bills, that both of them passed out of the House. And for a little bit of background, House Bill 1403, it's been trimmed back a little bit through negotiations in the House, but it contains what we believe are still the 2 main provisions that are going to make the biggest difference. And one is clarifying statutory language around implied warranties of quality. And then the other is creating a small condo exception for projects that are 12 units or less, or condoized ADUs, which has a link with making sure that we can easily build condos in neighborhoods that are densifying through House Bill 1110. So that one passed, and 1516 also passed. And actually, both of them are coming up on their first Senate hearings next week. So I will strongly encourage anyone in this meeting, and I'll post them in just a moment, to just quickly fill out the Sign In Pro piece. It takes less than a minute, and it really truly makes a difference. We have a broad coalition that HTC has been working with, led by Representative Taylor and Representative Hill. And without this broad coalition and people speaking up, we wouldn't have made it this far. So I'll stop there lest I start rambling about implied warranties, which no one wants. So thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Brady. And we have a lot of other bills that you see in front of you here where we're asking you to take action, including the rent stabilization bill that has passed now onto the next chamber. And there's so much more work ahead for us to do. And it looks like Jesse is joining us right from on the ground in Olympia. So with no further ado, I will hand back over to Jesse.
Yeah, thanks for taking that over, Patience. You know, it's a busy time in session. We're halfway through. We're past the House origin cutoff, and the cutoffs will keep coming week by week as we also ramp into the budget season. You know, all of these bills on the support docket, we are actively tracking. There are current sign-in pro links for many of them with a bunch of hearings scheduled. First round of hearing on parking reform, that's where I came from, as well as TOD and lot splitting this morning. And then there's another big set coming up early next week and into the week thereafter. So if you're on this call, I really encourage you to sign in pro. You can do so just on your personal capacity if there are limits to advocacy when it comes to your organization, or if you don't feel comfortable navigating that in particular. Really encourage you to just take those actions, sign in pro where you can. A lot of the major land use bills are still alive, and we are eagerly hoping that remains the case. This part of the session is kind of a make or break point, and we need to keep up the momentum. We also, I really want to call out that we have weekly state legislative update calls on Mondays 2 to 2:30. You can register straight from our website. There have been a few that have already died. Oh, and I want to highlight too, parking really needs some major support right now to house local government. That hearing was rough, and there are waffling legislators when it comes to the support there. So if you are supporting that, encourage you to do a quick round of reaching out to house local government as a broad level. In terms of what has not made it through the House of Origin cutoff, so the Permanent Supportive Housing Siting Protections Bill, HB 1195, is unfortunately dead. It's had been a major priority of Plymouth. The Affordable Housing Sales and Use Tax Remittance, or the Construction Sales Tax Exemption, also died. It didn't manage to clear out of the fiscal cutoff. And then the Revolving Loan Fund for Homeownership, same story. The local real estate excise tax for affordable housing as a fiscal bill theoretically could be NTIB back into existence, but looks to be fairly dead for this session. And that's what I've got on state. You know, we've got a big group here. If you're interested in following the ins and outs of the session, definitely encourage you to show up to our weekly calls. That'll give more opportunity to go in depth on where things stand. Also wanted to do a quick local advocacy update. Patience, do you want to close on state?
No, just move right into Seattle and I can cover Wilburton.
Great. So some quick local updates. The comprehensive plan is also in an important advocacy point right now. The city, we've gone through the first public hearing on February 5th. Thanks everyone who showed up. It was over 300 attendees and went till 10:30, and that was cutting off like about half of the ones who spoke. So it's right now it's really important that council hears written public advocacy. There are not that many opportunities over this next month and a half for verbal public comment. So really are channeling people into writing emails, writing letters. I'm sure you've been introduced to Jessica Yang, our new community organizer here earlier in the meeting. Thrilled to have her on board to add capacity on the Seattle comp plan. We had a good urbanist happy hour and letter writing event yesterday where I think she really demonstrated her housing chops and had some, I'd say, conversations that were more difficult than we thought would be. Anyway, I'll leave the link to our ongoing action alert in the chat. Definitely want people to fill that out, customize it, and we will have our next big public hearing in sometime in May. Patience, Wilburton.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for all the great work that's happening at the state level, and we'll continue to encourage folks to get plugged in. And then for those in Seattle, please get engaged on the comp plan. This is the home stretch for the comprehensive plan and really getting it to the finish line. Strong is going to be very important. Well, we are thrilled to share really exciting news that I would characterize as it's bringing some sunshine from our work in East King County, particularly in the city of Bellevue. We, of course, many of you know, have a coalition that is called the East Side Affordable Housing Coalition. And this coalition is made up largely of our HDC members who are incredibly engaged in our efforts to advance affordable housing solutions in East King County. And then through that partnership, we work in close collaboration with the private business sector, and I get to co-chair the East Side Housing Roundtable. And collectively, we've been at the forefront of pushing for real solutions to Bellevue's housing affordability crisis. So today we're thrilled to report that this past Wednesday, the Bellevue Planning Commission voted to support what we're calling the grand bargain. It's an agreement that we moved forward with the private business sector partners to support an affordability requirement. So it's a mandatory inclusionary zoning policy that will require the private market developers to set aside 10% of rental housing at 80% AMI with deeper affordability provisions and also targets for home ownership or contribute towards a fee. So this is it's a big win for ensuring that Bellevue does become a city that has these transit-oriented neighborhood areas of the future that still include affordability. And it's a critical milestone, particularly in Bellevue, given the growth that the city continues to experience, whether that's in terms of jobs that they have seen over the years and will continue to see, and the overall population growth that they anticipate. So we are really, really excited to be at this particular moment. There are so many people that we can thank for this success, but I want to give a special shout out to our very own Brady Nordstrom on our team, who has worked harder than all of us to get this win and bring it home. So Brady, thank you for all of your incredible work. I also want to thank many folks in the East Side Affordable Housing Coalition who were critical partners. I thought I saw Sahar earlier, from Imagine Housing, Dan Landis, Hal Ferris, many people who have really made strong contributions to get this to the finish line. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you for the great work, and we're just looking forward to continue to press on. We're inspired, we're optimistic, and we're going to keep pushing forward. The next part of the work is to get this through council, and we anticipate by April, when we convene to celebrate at the annual celebration, we might be celebrating a vote by then. But we're going to stay optimistic and keep pushing the work forward. Thank you. Back over to you, Jesse, on local stuff.
Yeah, thanks. And then our final piece here is around resident safety and operational stability, especially the local update on the potential reforms to landlord-tenant regulation in the city of Seattle. Recognize this is only a small part of the holistic solutions that are needed to make sure that affordable housing is safe and supportive for residents. But based on member feedback, we do believe that the package that we've put together in consultation with Councilmember Moore and the mayor's office is necessary to advance the long-term sustainability of the affordable housing sector. It's taken a bit longer than we had expected to pull together that final legislative package. Each of the pieces is currently in law review, and we might get back final legislation next Monday. It might be another week or so beyond there, and then that will kick off another period of engagement with mayor's office and Councilmember Moore to produce a package that has final approval of the gathered stakeholders. And also on the funding side, wanted to highlight some issues around the within the state budget. They've allocated some 50 million of the Housing Trust Fund to go into preservation projects, so preserving and expanding affordability for developments that are facing fiscal challenges. And then on the city of Seattle side, there are ongoing conversations about a new stabilization funding round that would be funded out of existing capital funding for the Jumpstart payroll expense tax. Still need to decide. There's a lot of moving parts right now with regard to anyone's budgets, and they are holding things in reserve for the moment. But it's still in active conversation. Some uncertainty around potential federal funding freezes are impacting the rollout of local operational stabilization funding. So I wanted to give that update for you all.
I want to understand why. Yes. That's right. So I'll have questions.
Great, thank you, Jesse. And now we're going to touch upon Affordable Housing Week and what to expect. Jesse or Lauren, are you going to take this one on?
Sure, I'll start off. So Affordable Housing Week 2025, second week of May, 12th through the 16th. We are planning out an active program. Should be a great week. Hold the dates in your calendar right now and just try and avoid scheduling over stuff, because I think if you want to, you'll be able to basically just live Affordable Housing Week that week, that once people start giving in events. If you are interested in having a building tour or webinar, please let us know. You can fill out that event form. It's pretty easy for us to start plugging an event as part of Affordable Housing Week. We have our set of core items that we will be leading and coordinating and making sure there's a structure and skeleton of events throughout the whole week. There'll be happy hours on the Wednesday and Thursday, Seattle comp plan training and letter writing workshops, an East Side focused event, some webinar on Wilburton, dive into more of that grand bargain, and of course the big kickoff event on Monday and a closing celebration and a couple more to come. So if you're interested in hosting an event, getting something on our collective calendars, yeah, please directly fill out that form, let us know. Again, when the lift is just us posting it to the website, it's a pretty easy lift. our theme is resilience and abundance, if that sparks any ideas. We aren't exactly rigid about saying no to events that are not really within the theme. Lauren, you want to cover Advocate of the Year?
Sure. So also as part of Affordable Housing Week, we honor an advocate of the year, someone who has really gone above and beyond to help advance our collective agenda and mission. So we are taking nominations for Advocate of the Year that will be awarded at our kickoff event during Affordable Housing Week. And we are also accepting nominations for Community Champion of the Year. So this award recognizes an individual or organization whose work is leading the way in advancing racial equity and equitable development in our region. So we are taking nominations for both Advocate of the Year and Community Champion of the Year, and look forward to recognizing folks during Affordable Housing Week.
Great. Sounds like a fantastic week already. So excited to see that. All right. So next up is our 2025 Affinity and Convening Group updates. All right. Then we're going to ask representatives from each group to talk for a few minutes on these. First is the Policy Advisory Group, or PAG. Do we have Sarah on the line? I think you were going to kick it off.
Sorry, this is Jesse. Sarah had to, there was a fire basically in terms of PR in Kirkland. So I'll just be doing a really quick intro on the Policy Advisory Group. I am pleased to announce that we're having a turnover in leadership there. So the outgoing chairs, Ryan Donahue and Dennis Sills, we've had the pleasure of working with them for 2 to 3 years as chairs, and they are terming off. And we have Sarah Dickmeyer and Poppy Handy joining us instead. So stay tuned. Next meeting is at the end of March, the fourth Monday in March, and that will be the handoff and transition meeting. So, really quick pitch on the Policy Advisory Group. It's where we spend time getting into all of what HDC handles in terms of policy. It helps our staff. It's with two-way communication. It helps staff get info on what members are experiencing, get member feedback on the policies that HDC staff are working on. And it's a way for members to learn more about what the HDC staff are pushing forward. So if you're interested in getting more involved in everything we do in terms of policy here, strongly encourage you to start attending those meetings. We do a mix between virtual and in-person meetings. The March one will be virtual, and one of the main roles for the Policy Advisory Group is to craft the advocacy agenda over the summer. So it's an important and I think good stepping stone for getting more involved in PAG. And yeah, it was part of my journey to becoming HTC staff here. So if you're, it's a great launch point, and really happy to have the new co-chairs joining too.
Great. Thanks, Jesse, and thanks for that pitch. All right. Next, we have the Affordable Home Ownership Group. Kathleen.
Hi, everybody. Happy to report out on the Affordable Homeownership Affinity Group. This is a group that meets once a month on the third Wednesday of the month. And we find the greatest value in using this time to stay in touch with each other and to hear from agencies that directly impact our work: City of Seattle, King County, State of Washington Department of Commerce, Homeownership Division, and City of Seattle, King County, And Washington State Housing Finance Commission, we start off with reports from them about programmatic changes and opportunities and deadlines coming up. We get wonderful updates from Bambi about policy advisory work that is happening specifically to home ownership. And then we always have time for members to report out on what they're working on. It's a really productive time of collaboration when people identify ways to assist each other and work together. So it's been a very productive group for a number of years. You're all invited, if you support homeownership, to join us 9:30 to 11 on the third Wednesday of each month.
Great. Thank you, Kathleen. All right. Our next group is the AM/PM affinity group. Lisa, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Lisa.
Thank you. So the Asset Management, Property Management Affinity Group, we've been meeting from 1 to 2 p.m. on the first Thursday of each month. For quite a few years, we were virtual only, but we are trying to bring back in-person meetings to help us kind of collaborate and meet other folks in our same pickles. So the hybrid options are available, but we're meeting at Pike Pine up at the 12th Avenue Arts Building for those of us who would like to come in person. So this really is a group opportunity for asset management and property management to offer, peer support, talking about some of the issues that we're having, collaborate on ideas and solutions, and hearing from industry experts on all sorts of stuff that is going on in our industry. And fun fact, the funders often show up to these meetings, so we get to kind of give them a little bit of a different taste of what we are going through as affordable housing owner and operators. We've had conversations about rising insurance costs, resident and property safety issues, energy code compliance, and resources that might be available for energy efficiency upgrades for our portfolios. And our next meeting, we're hoping to talk about capital funding for preservations, which is a hot topic with not enough money behind it. So I hope to see all of you there. If you're interested, reach out to Lauren. She can get you on our list. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. What an important collaborative group. All right, now we have the BHI Policy Network. Bambi, you're up.
I hope everyone can hear me. Hello, everyone. My name is Bambi Joas. I am the Homeownership Policy Manager here at HDC. And I just wanted to take a quick minute to express my appreciation for Kathleen Hosfeld and her excellent leadership for our Affordable Homeownership Affinity Group. If you've ever attended the group, you know it is one of the most welcoming and inclusive and has a real sense of community. And I hope to see many of you there at our next meeting. As the Homeownership Policy Manager, one of my core responsibilities is to convene the Black Home Initiative Policy Group. And I want to just take a few minutes to introduce the group. For those who may not be familiar with it, we certainly welcome your participation. So the goal of the BHI network is to create opportunity for 1,500 new low and moderate income Black households to own a home in South Seattle, in South King County, and North Pierce County. We work together to achieve our shared priority to increase Black homeownership because the wealth and homeownership gap between Black and white households in our state is, stark. These gaps reflect a persistently discriminatory homeownership system that must be disrupted on a systematic level. And it will take all of us working together to make that happen. There are many aspects of the work needed to meet this goal, and many different people are bringing their time and talent into creating this change. There are several teams working on our shared priority through teams like Sustaining Existing Homeowners, Buyer Outreach, Capital Funding, Lending and Underwriting, and many more. There are many ways to contribute to the BHI network. However, HDC is the BHI partner that leads the policy work for the network. We organize and facilitate the creation of the policy enabling environment needed to progress our BHI network efforts. As the policy leader, we connect the dots, create momentum, and set goals to produce a coherent policy strategy. We then bring the BHI network together around a collective advocacy agenda called the Homeownership Policy Framework. The BHI Network Policy Group meets monthly to hear from policy champions and discuss those policy actions that might further our shared priority to increase Black homeownership. Through this work, we co-create the homeownership policy framework that has both lead and support policy actions. Items that are included in our framework most effectively increase Black homeownership, and those can be actions at the local, the city, the county, or the state level. We focus on actions around funding, cost reduction, zoning and regulatory reform, and land acquisition and value capture. After adopting our homeownership policy framework in December, the group then moves into advocacy. So we use our monthly meetings and our weekly BHI Network Policy Digest to stay connected as we mobilize support from community and organizational stakeholders for the policy actions in the framework. Right now, we are very busy with the state legislative session with 7 lead items and 20 support items. So it's a bit of a lift, but 5 of our 7 lead bills and 15 of our 20 have passed the first legislative cutoffs, and they are moving forward in the legislative process. At this time, we're also leaning into the Seattle Comprehensive Plan, and we will be closely monitoring the progression of the King County Equitable Development Initiative. We're currently in our 3rd year as a network, and we have had several policy wins, increased our political influence, and greatly advanced visibility around our racial homeownership and wealth gaps. I hope you'll join us in this work, and if you are already contributing, I hope you'll continue to do so. And thank you for showing up to increase Black homeownership. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat.
Thank you, Bambi. Thanks for your leadership in this extremely important work. All right, up next is the CBO Affinity Group. Lauren, you're going to cover this one today.
I am standing in for our co-chairs, Bill and Aiden with African Community Housing and Development, and AJ Carey with LISC Puget Sound. We are currently working on our 2025 meeting schedule, so that will be available shortly for anyone who's interested in joining us. So the CBO Collaborative Affinity Group was formed 2 years ago at the start of 2023. And we really convened initially around an agenda and work plan that was focused on 4 main buckets. The first being generational wealth building, the second, organizational capacity building, funding, and policy. And we spent some time working on those buckets and trying to determine a work plan from each. Then we were invited by the Washington State Housing Finance Commission to provide input on their buy-in for policy for the 4% program. And I'm going to put a link for the Finance Commission. They created a CBO partnership webpage on their website that includes information for CBOs, for organizations that partner with CBOs, and then also includes all of the agendas and notes from all of our meetings that took place. So it's a wealth of information there. So we are still committed to working with the Finance Commission, but we are also looking to restart our efforts through a event that we're calling Scaling Community Development. It's going to be a reception in probably October. I'm still working on identifying the date there, but we're looking to convene members, elected officials, and philanthropy, and really spotlighting key efforts in capacity building, data and metrics, knowledge sharing, and cataloging promising practices. So look out for more information on that. The affinity group is going to be focused from now until October on planning for this event. So that's what we're going to really be kind of head down working on. And then we'll likely be returning to our initial work plan to restart the 4 buckets. So look forward to seeing you there.
Great. That sounds really exciting, Lauren. Thank you. And next we have Decarbonize Affordable Housing Now, or DAWN. Laura, do you have a moment to chat about this one?
Sure, thank you. I'm Laura Franke, the Sustainable Buildings Coordinator at HDC, and the Decarbonize Affordable Housing Now group, or DAWN, is focused on transforming affordable housing through decarbonization. Our group meets every second Thursday of the month from 10 to 11 a.m. Our co-chairs are Daniel Pope and Kimberly Lowen. Daniel's at 2030 District and Kimberly is at Elevate. And our group has about 25 members currently, representing about 15 different organizations that include nonprofits, utility and local government, as well as building and engineering sciences. So a really broadly focused group in order to address the needs of our community to decarbonize. So the Seattle passed its building emissions performance standards recently at the end of December, actually, and prior to that, the state of Washington also passed performance standards for buildings. And so buildings in Seattle will need to meet both the performance standards for the state starting in 2027, and then also the emission standards in Seattle also starting in 2027, but with an extended timeline on the Seattle requirements. But big picture is that we are a group that is working to create demonstration projects as well as portfolio analysis of current existing affordable housing, in order to demonstrate a pathway towards meeting these decarbonization goals. So it's identifying your current equipment and outputs, and then identifying where improvements can be made if they are necessary, and identifying technical and funding resources that are available in order to make those implementations to reach the decarbonization goals. We did have our first collaboration meeting introductory meeting with AMPM last week in order to introduce the group and also start receiving feedback from the actual housing providers who are going to be the ones needing to meet these requirements. And so what we learned at that meeting was really valuable as just an introductory meeting. We'll be doing a lot more outreach. We're going to also more broadly talk about upcoming lunch and learns that will include things like talking about new products and technologies that are coming into the market. We know that with the challenges with federal funding, some of our solution needs to be identifying technologies that are not at a premium but are at parity with current operating systems. Hopefully we're able to identify solutions that actually reduce the cost of operations, but not, in every case, that's not going to be the situation. So making sure that we're finding ways to plug the holes in funding and creating advocacy for available funds that are out there. One of the activities that we're currently undertaking is doing some fundraising so that the program can really be stood up with a breadth of resources that can consistently deliver to our members in a way that, if we're just putting a bunch of stuff on the website, it might not be quite as accessible or useful to our members. So what we're really trying to do is create a program through which projects can be put into a pipeline and work through logical steps regardless of where they're coming into the pipeline from. So we know that some buildings are going to have a need because of equipment failure. Others are going to have a need because they're doing a refinancing, or there could be any variety of other trigger points that sort of move people into the actively doing projects phase, but trying to help people get planned for it, coordinated with their other resources, and then moving forward towards their decarbonization goals. So would love to have broader participation. You'll definitely be seeing lots of lunch and learns from our group here coming up in the near future. So I welcome any feedback on ideas that you would like us to talk about. You're welcome to email me, laura@housingconsortium.org. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks for getting us prepared for these changes to come in the very near future. All right, and next we have the Eastside Affordable Housing Coalition.
Great. I'll just jump in here. I'm speaking on behalf of our co-chairs, Chris Buchanan at Bellwether Housing and Hal Ferris, who's a retired developer and a former Bellevue Planning Commissioner. So the Eastside Affordable Housing Coalition sprung up a few years ago in response to all the things that were happening on the East Side around housing and growth. It was the East Link and now the 2 line. There were a lot of new jobs announced, and there were comprehensive plans happening. And concurrent with all of this, we were seeing record spikes in housing costs. And one example that I like to use is from the Bellevue School District, and they're having problems with retaining and finding employees. People are driving through 2 school districts to get to the Bellevue School District to work. And I've even heard from Overlake Hospital that they've had doctors turn down job offers because they can't find a house in close enough to their work. So this is a real problem. And of course, we can't forget about all the people that are most impacted by the housing crisis on the East Side that are getting displaced. This is all happening. So the Eastside Affordable Housing Coalition, we're about 30 members, and we're specifically focused in Bellevue, Redmond, and Kirkland, but occasionally things come up in other Eastside cities. Basically what we do is we come up with technical positions, it often in response to things that are coming up in cities. We together and collaboratively craft our positions, and then we advocate. And so this is really an advocacy group, and we've already made some big progress. Patience was talking about the Wilburton Code earlier. This group was one of the main groups that was negotiating that agreement, and then going and advocating. And so this was central to the success of that. And I mean, being where we're at right now, it's easy to forget, but I hope that I can continue to emphasize that early on, just keeping inclusionary zoning on the table was a struggle. And so that was in large part because of this group. Comp planning, Bellevue's updating its affordable housing strategy to add 5,700 new 0 to 80% AMI housing units in the next 10 years. There's an Office of Housing that's forming in Bellevue. There's been ongoing comp plan things. There's NIMBY groups that are popping up in, we've had them in Kenmore, Redmond, Kirkland, that are opposing affordable housing and growth. And then funding for budgets. That's another super, super important thing that we need to maintain and expand. So all of that is just to kind of show you that we're making progress, but all of our power comes from our members. There aren't a lot of groups like the Eastside Affordable Housing Coalition on the East Side. And so we really fill, I think, a niche and even a void, I would say, that really adds to our effectiveness. So if you are an organization that is interested in getting more involved in the East Side, if you already are an East Side organization, I would really, really recommend that you reach out to me. I'm putting my email right there. It's really, we can right size the involvement for you. We have a monthly meeting, and we have a mailing list, and you can engage however and wherever makes sense for you in your organization. So please reach out to me. And I think that's the end of my pitch, but yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity to share this.
Thank you, Brady. Such an important group. Appreciate that. All right, next is the Finance and Accounting Affinity Group. Lauren?
Yep, I am going to represent this group and I don't have a ton to say about it. They have only had a few meetings. They were just formed back in 2024. We have our co-chairs, Jorge Perez with Seed and Joe Purvis with Clark Newber. The next meeting is going to be March 20th, and then we'll follow a quarterly cadence, and they will determine the meeting dates at the March 20th meeting. Generally, their discussion has been focused on trends that they're seeing in the financial health of our member organizations, funding received and related accounting implications, and then regulatory changes impacting the finances. So if you are at a member organization and you're involved in finance and accounting within your organization, or that's what your organization does, I think this is a great group to connect with. So Maya Vidich, HDC's operations manager, is the staff liaison for that group. So you can reach out to Maya or myself to get connected.
Great. Love when new affinity groups are formed when members need it. All right, next is the Home Repair Assistance Network. Elizabeth, are you still on the call with us?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, struggling with a bit of a respiratory infection. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm Elizabeth Bettis. I'm with Washington Homeownership Resource Center, and I have the pleasure each quarter of meeting with Lauren Tierney and several folks who are members of HDC to talk about home repair needs throughout our area. And some of the things that we've been working on, one I would say is really using the space to foster a community of practice for folks who are working with or on behalf of homeowners who are in need of owner-occupied repair services, modification services, such as those needed to age in place or accommodate a disability. I think that it's been wonderful to have folks provide spotlights, share information about programs. There seems to be a little bit more energy, I think, in the last few, meetings than we have had in the past, where it felt like a little bit like the group was kind of floundering. One of the things that we certainly could use additional support in, especially as I hear this group talking about legislative and other advocacy, is really having some advocacy champions and folks with that area of expertise come and support this group in really creating a consistent and helpful strategy to raise our voices in terms of needs in Washington state as they relate to supports for owner-occupied home repair, for folks aging in place, for low-income households, and really being able to tell the story of the need to preserve existing housing stock. We know that it's important to increase housing stock, but all around us across the United States. I work for a statewide organization, and I'm telling you something you probably already know, which is that this is a statewide need. There needs to be a lot more attention around preserving existing housing stock, home repair. So yes, I am asking all of you really to think about your second Thursdays, once a quarter, from 9:30 to 11 to join us on Zoom and be able to lend your energy, fire, and expertise to that. And let's see, last meeting, we had a wonderful spotlight from the Department of Commerce's group that is working on the Inflation Reduction Act home rebate, energy rebate programs. I know that a lot of that is fraught right now because this is a federal program, but I do hear that the program is still set to launch in late spring. And so they gave us a presentation as to where they are, what they know and don't know, what we can anticipate, because that program or set of programs really will be of great importance to anyone working on home repair, modifications, weatherization, etc. So they have offered to join our group quarterly as well and keep providing updates. So if that's of interest to you, join us. And I believe our next meeting is in May. I'll provide some information as well as my email in the chat so that folks can join us. What am I missing, Lauren? I've got all the asthma medication brain fog.
Oh, that was great, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
thanks, Elizabeth. I hope you feel better. And yeah, thank you for a very specific ask for who you need in your affinity group. All right, next we have the Offsite Construction Task Force. And Patience, I believe you were going to cover this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Offsite Construction Task Force meets the first Monday of each month. We have a far much more overloaded cadence of meetings now, particularly for an exciting project that I'm going to share. But it's chaired by Grace Kim from Schemata. We have Justin Stewart from Synergy. We have Matt Lassie from Jackson, Maine, and we have Rick Muller from the University of Washington. And they're really focused on exploring offsite construction methods and modular construction, and how do we expand the capacity of developing affordable housing in our community using these different methods. We are right now, through this task force, working in partnership with a national knowledge exchange network called MODEX. We're working with them on a federal grant. We are one of 6 sites nationwide that were selected to develop a work plan. And that work plan is to define strategies for us to increase our capacity in creating affordable housing by utilizing offsite construction and modular methods, or really expanding on manufacturing practices locally. So in order for us to develop that plan, we are going to be looking at our regulatory framework here locally. What are some ways that we can really shift to support development more critically? And then we'll also be looking at how we can aggregate demand, particularly for offsite construction methods here locally. We have Shweta from Schemata. She is right now in the process of the demand aggregation mapping, working through the Excel documents, and she might be reaching out to some of you as developers just to get a sense of what are some financing tools that already exist, what are some regulatory barriers that we're seeing with L&I at the state level, what are we seeing related to code that we need to be assessing and elevating. And once all of that work is done, we expect it will be part of this national published plan that will cover all of the sites and can be used as a model across communities. In doing this work, we will be hosting virtual workshops. These will be, the first one will be in May on Affordable Housing Week, so May 13th. Joanne will be posting that on our calendar pretty soon. So if you're interested in being engaged, please look out for that. We are also pulling together an advisory committee that's really going to be the brain trust to inform the planning on the ground here locally, to be sure that we're looking and crossing all T's and dots to develop a plan that is relevant for the local ecosystem. And then in June, we will wrap up with an in-person symposium, and we'll be midway in implementing the project, so we won't have the plan by then, but it will be a good room to be in with elected officials, with architects, general contractors across the industry coming together to really dive into how do we explore offsite construction and modular here in our community and deliver safe, affordable housing that we desperately need. And we need to expand different methods and tools to do so. So reach out to Lauren if you're interested in being engaged. Lauren can plug you into that group, and we can support you in participating.
Thanks, Patience. Looking forward to that later this fall. All right, next is the Resident Services Affinity Group. Kira on the call?
Yes, I'm right here.
Thank you.
I'm Kira. I work with CERC and I'm a member of the Resident Services Affinity Group. The Resident Services Affinity Group continues to meet monthly on the first Thursday of each month from 10 to 11 o'clock with resident services staff from Seattle Housing Authority, King County Housing Authority, Bellwether Housing, CERC Living, Human Good, Plymouth Housing, Community Roots Housing, Mercy Housing, Southeast Effective Development and Interim CDA, Most recent affinity group meeting topics included advanced directives presented by CERC Living, harm reduction with a focus on Narcan treatment offered by Here Seattle, and clutter support presented by the Seattle Housing Authority Clutter Support Team. Resident Services Affinity Group leadership is under transition with the parting of chairs. Khadija Abdullah and Danny Turk is currently looking for a new chair. Please reach out to the HDC team for more information.
Great, thanks, Kira. And our 12th and final affinity group is the tax credits bond financing affinity group. Beth?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Borum, and I co-chair the affinity group, tax credit affinity group with Jeremy Wilkening. And I want to read our charter. So the purpose of the tax credit affinity group is to serve as an engagement mechanism for the HDC members to generate feedback and recommendations to the Housing Finance Commission on policies promulgated by the commission which affect the funding of affordable housing in Seattle, King County. And I would add, in close coordination with local funders. So for 2025, our next meeting is going to be a hybrid meeting. And so we're doing every other month as a hybrid in person and virtual. So March will be that hybrid meeting. And we're going to have a conversation about preservation, policy, and funding as a theme. I hear that the AM/PM affinity group is talking about that next month, so some of those folks might want to come. Specifically, we're going to be talking about projects that are currently restricted, that have been in operation for 30 or so years, that need to be recapitalized or are coming up against their affordability restriction ending. So just a full conversation about policy around that, funding policy. And then we want to have our tax credit investor panel earlier this year, so we'll have that in May. And then we typically do a tour in the summer of a new building. And we haven't set our agenda for the rest of the year, but we'll do that as the year moves on. And please reach out to me or Jeremy if there's something that you'd like to talk to us about. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Beth. All right, so that wraps up our affinity groups. We do have some peer groups and task forces that are listed here on your screen to also get involved in. Again, reach out to Lauren, she can get you connected, and just really appreciate this community that we have that really gets together and collaborates. All right, anything else, Patience or Lauren, before we move on to member announcements? No? All right. Well, I'm going to open the floor. If you want to raise your hand or mention something in the chat for member announcements. All right.
I think that's a great sign that we are
Yeah.
ready to meet at the annual celebration on April 23rd. And it's really encouraging to listen to all of the affinity groups that are actively engaging and deeply collaborating. And when we come together, not only are we lifting up our accomplishments, we are gearing up for the work that's ahead of us. So thank you for all you do to advance our shared mission.
Great. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend and happy spring.